don't know. It's kind of been a bit hazy, really. I'm not entirely certain what the fuck I've been playing. I know I've played. I'm gonna load up my Steam library just so I can actually see what I have been playing. I know I've been playing a lot of the Division 2. Because I was a big fan of the first game. I know lots of people didn't really like it, but I dug it a lot. Um, yeah, the first game was a bit strangely laid out, I think, and I'm not sure if the second game is. I'm not quite at end game yet. I'm sort of in the back third of like story content. I think I've been playing it with our friend Mark, mutual friend of ours. I've got something stuck in my throat. Sorry. Um, but you know, we've been hitting that hard, and like there's 3 dark zones in the game, which is nice because in the first like game, like dark zone was kind of like end game content, wasn't it? But like there's like a DZ, there's a DZ that you can go into from like level up at about level 10, and it scales up to about level 19 or something. So there's a there's a little bit of that like tense DZ goodness kind of, and I forgot how much I missed dicking around in the DZ, and like we had a lot of fun doing that back in the day. Um, but yeah, the DZ rules. It's very similar to the first game, to be honest. I haven't really got a lot to say. Uh, it's kind of all the great classics run back. It's set in DC rather than New York. Um, kind of like helping build like other settlements of like survivors. Your like base of operations is the White House, and then you expand out from the White House basically. And then there's like no, no, no. It's fucking like, to be fair, actually, like playing it, given the context of the division as well, and like our uh present climate, um, quite scary. Like it was kind of a scary concept like 4 or 5 years ago when the first one came out, but it's real. But like, but but yeah, kind of in the middle of this pandemic, like the idea of this like thing that's just swept the nation and fucked everything up, and obviously like that was like, what was it? It was like some weaponized version of like like a flu or something, I think. Yeah, yeah. It was on the money. Yeah, that was the idea of it. It was somebody had set it up on Black Friday and put it on dollar bills and basically passed the money around. Apparently you're muted, Rob. Let me just double check. You are, yes, you are muted, my guy.
God damn, I'm gonna have to record that intro separately, aren't I?
You are going to have to go back and throw it back.
Oh, anyway, sorry, carry on, Josh.
But yeah, it was kind of like passed around on the money on Black Friday, and obviously went it ended up in other cities because the nature of um, how easily plagues and pandemics spread. But yeah, enjoying that a lot. Like the gadgets are pretty cool and stuff. Like it's kind of basic stuff that you'd expect from a new version of a game. It's you know just little updates here and there. So there's a turret, obviously, which was like one of the ones from the first game, but there's now also like a drone, similar kind of thing. You know, like a little it's like a little. There's another little drone called a Firefly, which is like it's almost like shot like an origami bird almost. It's a bit weird. It's like a drone kind of thing, and it flashbangs everybody. Um, but it's awesome. Um, and then what else have I been playing? I started playing Dying Light again. And that's not as fun as I remember it being.
Oh, really?
No, not at all.
That's
But
a shame.
maybe because it's early game and like you're running out of breath all the time
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But like just kind of like at the minute it feels like a chore to play it, and I kind of like I'm like I'll give this another hour. I'll see, and then like I'm just like get about half an hour and I'm just like, oh, no, fuck this. And then like 3 days later I'll be like, try again. No, But yeah, aside from that, I don't really know what else I've been playing.
I remember when that came out, I was like, this is the game that Dead Island should have been. Do you remember Dead
Yeah,
Island?
like it was great for its time. Dying Light was like for sure, but
they're still working on the
and it's
sequel,
still
aren't they?
yeah,
Did that come
it's
out?
probably not too far.
Yeah.
Like I think mostly as well because I'm playing it on a controller as well, just because I think it's more comfortable. But the fucking button layout is really weird as well. It's like all the parkour stuff is on R1 rather than like X, like you'd expect it to kind of
Yeah.
be.
Okay.
And I think maybe that's because you can keep your thumbs on the joysticks and then like still have the jump.
Yeah.
But like it
Don't feel right.
feel right, and it's a bit glitchy. Um, and then I'm basically just playing Fall Guys like literally everybody else in the universe. So that's it.
Yeah,
That's
I
me.
was wondering when we were gonna get onto Fall Guys.
I purposely kept it till last,
Yeah.
just so I could just so I could flawlessly segue because I'm a professional.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I picked it up on Saturday and I played a little bit of it on Saturday and then we played it on stream yesterday where I got my first win. First win on Fall Guys, which was great.
I'm not one.
Have you not?
I mean, I'm playing on the computer, so I don't know if it's a little bit more sweaty on the computer. But I've got to the final a couple of times, but
yeah. Yeah, so it was oh. Sorry, that's the SingularityJosh entering the chat room there.
oh, my bad.
That's all good. That's all good. Yeah, so yeah, we played yesterday on yesterday's stream, and it wasn't until like literally our last game of the stream that we ended up winning, which was a real nice finisher
Nice
to the
finish.
stream. Yeah. But yeah, man, that game's just so fun. It's just so fun, so
Yeah,
colourful,
it's so
wonderful.
dumb and so silly and just so playable.
It's like what right at the start of lockdown when Animal Crossing was released, and that's like what just people just needed that like wholesome goodness. This is kind of what Fall Guys is a couple of months down the line. It's like that next new wholesome goodness thing that's just like a joy to behold and play.
I mean, to be fair, like as a testament to just how playable the game is, I managed to get Pippa on it, and Pippa's not really a gamer at all. She doesn't really play games really ever. But she was on it and running around and having a go, and it's just such a simple concept, and it's just executed so well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key there, isn't it? Is that it's executed like superbly well, from a company that wasn't expecting this much footfall in this game. Yeah, it's just they've had an awesome idea and they've just ran with it, and it's just so much fun. There's a lot of variety in there. Yeah, there's a lot of variety in there. It's very simple to play, and like the concept to just get. All the games basically speak for themselves. There's not a lot of confusion going in. It's very easy to just pick up
it's very
and play.
intuitive.
Yeah, which it's been masterfully done.
What's your favorite game and your least favorite game?
My word. Okay, so although I've said it's very easy to pick up and play and just understand straight off the bat, I don't understand the Jinxed game.
I don't think I've played that one, or if I have, I've only played it once. It hasn't come around for me very often.
So as far as I can explain it, but this isn't me explaining it in terms of me understanding the mechanics of that game, is that you just run around and you end like if you grab people, you end up with like a weird purple like dizziness around you for the rest of the game, and I don't know. Every time I've played it, I've qualified. But I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just running around being a nonsense.
I think what it kind of reminded me of, and like you've played first-person shooters, I'm sure you'll get the parable, but it's Infected.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like when you're like one of you is a zombie and you shoot somebody else
Sure.
and they're a zombie and they join your team and then you
Yeah.
like it's kind of a bit like Infected,
Okay.
a little bit, I think,
Yeah, but it
but I'm not
seems
quite
like
sure how the qualification
well,
really
exactly. But
bags out.
it seems like a really simple. Like it seems too simple of a game to just be that. I don't know. So that it's not my like least favorite, but I just don't get it. So I'm not quite on board with it yet. One game that I'm not having great times with is where you're sort of just running through the track trying to avoid the slime that's just like following you.
That one's really difficult. I don't think I've ever qualified of that.
I haven't either. It's when you get to the stage where the walls are coming out and pushing you off the platform.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Dude, I can't work.
I can't time it. I can't get it.
Yeah. Not helped by the fact that the game in of itself is just chaos. So everyone's bumping into everyone, and you can't like jump up and get the timings perfect because everyone's bumping around and jumping on you. Like it's insanity. I don't know. Some of my faves are probably. We played Whirligig yesterday. Whirligig is real fun. We're just running around. There's all these fans about everyone. You're jumping over things and trying to avoid the fans. That's real fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's just real good. There's still a few games I haven't managed to play. But yeah, it's just super fun the entire time. I find the initial or some of the loading times a little bit long, but they're not so long that you're taking out the game for very long. I find. I think I'm waiting around a lot longer to get into like an Apex game than I'm Fall Guys. Which I mean,
also like the graphical quality.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But for what is basically a battle royale, where you're in and out of games like super quick.
I think the fact that it's also a 60-man game is also a testament to it.
Yeah.
I did read, like, there was a big long... I did send it, I'm fairly sure, on Twitter.
Yeah, I didn't actually
like a big,
read
like, design, basically like a design philosophy about it. About, like, how they did all the, like, original sketches and the original pitches and it's basically just unchanged from that. And they said they tried 100... they said they tried 100 man and they were like, it's probably just a bit too much with 100 people to start with, and kind of settled on 60 as the number in the end.
So yeah, this is from Jeff Tanton, at Jeff_Tanton on Twitter, who's the creative director at Mediatonic, who's obviously behind Fall Guys.
People make it.
So yeah.
You can link that in the show notes or something. I'm sure, can't you? That's probably a good. It's definitely worth a read. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, 100%.
You don't often get like looks behind the door like that. I don't think either.
No, and it's nice to slowly but surely sort of peek behind the curtain occasionally with stuff like this, which is real good. Because yeah, like you said, we don't get it very often. So when we do, it's kind of just gold, especially for something that, like I said, that they've come up with like a really awesome concept and they've just kept running with it quite literally. And yeah, and I think it's paid off really well for them. I think this is exciting. Fall Guys is really exciting going forward for what its potential could be and what it could mean in the gaming sphere. So
social media presence is also fucking hilarious if you haven't seen that.
I've seen bits.
So good. I've like fully followed them on Twitter and everything. Yeah. It's wonderful.
Awesome. I did see one thing, some fairly recent news. We won't go into it too much, but some recent news with Fall Guys that obviously, because of the size and the scope of this game, it's getting a lot of attention, like a hell of a lot of attention, from people in different industries. So, and of course, with the nature of said game, it's quite marketable. It's quite marketable to companies. So a lot of brands and companies have been coming up to Mediatonic. There you go. Mediatonic being like, hey, how can we get a brand deal with your game? How can we get our brand in Fall Guys, etc., etc.? And we're talking, like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, all of it, like all the big brand shit that you would expect. And they're like, why don't you bid for it? Why don't you bid for it?
I don't know if you've seen this, but it's there was the leader of that bidding competition for a good long while was a company that makes bidets, and the
amazing.
and the mock up for their skin was basically like a Fall Guy in like shorts and a t-shirt, and it's and on the t-shirt it says something like "wash my butthole."
If only they win. Please win. Please win.
I'll see if I can find it. It's very funny.
Please do. Oh my word, that sounds amazing. But yeah, so but that's not like them being like, just bid for it, give us all the money. They are literally donating how much money this ends up racking up, and it's been quite a lot so far. They are literally going to donate all of that money to a charity called Special Effect, which I believe they're called Special Effect. But they are a charity that helps disabled people play video games, which is amazing. So this is racking up quite a lot of money already. This Fall Guys.
There's one I've literally seen it tweet, like trying to find this tweet for you. Literally 7 hours ago. You know, the Go Compare man, like Go Compare have mocked up like the Go Compare guy as a Fall Guy. Amazing. And they're basically like, what do you think, guys? Like, can we get, so, I doubt I'll be able to find this now, to be completely honest with you, because it's like their Twitter is very, very active, and it was like last week I saw it. So, but yeah, so we've both been playing a lot of Fall Guys, but what else have you been playing, Rob?
Sorry, just real quick. I think currently we're at is it nearly 300,000? I think. If I'm my sources that I found are correct with that auction bid, so that's going to be a hell of a lot of money going to that charity, which is amazing. But yeah, what else have I been playing? So I have been playing a hell of a lot of Bloodborne this month, which I'm just still perpetually enjoying. So in love with that game. It's amazing.
So good, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad I kind of got over the hump.
Found it. And it's not. It says, "Ask me about my butthole." I'm just gonna quickly post that in the Twitch chat, like the link to the picture. Very funny.
Amazing. So I'm so glad I got over the hump with that like 2 months ago, whenever it was, with Bloodborne and Father Gascoigne, and I just have the best time, literally exploring it. Just exploring the world. It's so interesting, so amazing. Just going about exploring it, and like, I don't know, that like level of like excitement and anticipation and fear of like what's around the corner, what's just gonna one bang me straight away. It's just, I don't know, it's just something really addictive about it.
I was fucking pissing myself watching you play, and I was just like, if that guy puts you in his bag, you're gonna end up somewhere bad, and you were just like, you're taking the piss, whatever. Kind of shrugged it off, and then the guy like murdered you and stuck you in the bag, and then you ended up in this dungeon. You were like, oh dear, I've made mistakes.
Totally, dude, because I was literally thinking, he's just like, that's his special move. He's just literally going to hit me with the bag. Not really comprehending, no, you're going to get kidnapped and taken to a dark... Yeah, get in the bag. Taken to like a dark place, and like, good luck, get out.
Yeah, that place sucks. But once you, if you like end up going back there, like now you've got a few levels and stuff. Like, cause it's very easy to get back to, because obviously you just need to get killed by one of those dudes.
I can get there on the gravestones.
Oh shit! Yeah, there you go. Go back and explore that place, because it's full of loot.
Yeah,
it's full of it.
Yeah,
and like there's a really awesome weapon in there somewhere that I used for like a really long time.
Nice. Yeah, I did attempt to go back there. Like not long after I think I'd uncovered it, possibly in that same stream, or like like a stream or so after. Once I'd leveled up a little bit more, and I was thinking, yeah, I can probably adequately do this. Nope, still couldn't. So we're leaving that for a while. At the moment, we're on Rom, the boss Rom.
I told you about. I said to you, man, that boss nearly made me quit the game.
Yeah,
that boss is fucking miserable.
I can see why.
Fucking miserable.
When I first got there, I was like, oh, this is like simple. And then you get to that second stage, and it's like, oh, have some ice just thrown at you from nowhere. But
Yeah,
towards the end, I was getting the hang of it. So I think next stream will probably it'll take a while, but
I was
I
there.
think
I
we'll do
was
it.
there for fucking forever. Honestly, I was there for so long. Like, I think I was probably longer there than I was at Gascoigne.
Really?
But I think the boss itself is much more complicated. And it's like sometimes I think you get like you're kind of like, oh, I get the hang of this now, and then you get like greedy and then they kill you, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean that's always the way though with Bloodborne. You get a little bit too cocky, a little bit too greedy, and then like that's it. It spells disaster for you. But yeah, like that bot, I did get quite close. I got up to its like third stage.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better either.
No, not at all. He just gets more. He gets just far more aggressive. But there's just so much going on that you've got to be aware of. I think of all the bosses I've faced so far, this is the one that I think's got the most going on, relatively, because Rom in of itself isn't very active.
It's like all the active effects and the minions and stuff, isn't it?
And it's like a string of three things that he does, where he's like slinging ice at you. He does like a belly flop thing, and I think there's something else.
Some
like
of the spiders and stuff as well.
Yeah, and then there's the spiders.
If you get close to him, he like shoots out ice, doesn't he? I think.
Yeah. That's it. Absolutely.
It's been a really long time since I've played Bloodborne.
So you're trying to be aware of all these effects that are possibly coming. You're trying to get rid of the spiders because otherwise you can't really get a hack on him properly. I don't know. I think every boss is so interesting and so intriguing. Even the ones that I found really really simple, I thought were like really cool. Like the witch in the area where the witch is.
It's just a dead end with a boss down there.
Yeah, literally.
Great.
But the boss, in fairness, is real fucking simple.
That boss kind of reminds me a little bit of I think she's called the Crystal Witch from Dark Souls 3. She reminds me a lot of like that. Like kind of teleports around and shoots magic at you and stuff. Like, there was a lot of similarities between those two bosses. Like, because I basically played them back to back. So,
just really enjoying my time in Bloodborne. It's so fun, like so good, and like I'm 100% gonna be looking into more Soulsborne games and picking some up in the future. I'm sad I missed that Humble Bundle.
100% recommend picking up DS3 for sure.
Yeah, no, I think I will. I think when I got my PC,
amazing.
When I've got my PC, and I find it on sale, we'll probably dive into that on there, for sure. I think on stream.
Yeah, I was actually really proud of because I was watching you play Bloodborne, and I was like, oh, something else that like I said, I've just kind of played like whatever, and I've kind of forgotten about the other things I played. I was watching you play Bloodborne. I re-downloaded Dark Souls 3, and I was really proud of myself because I did all of the first section all the way up to the first bonfire without dying, including the first boss, which I've never done before.
Awesome, dude.
I was just like, I'm good at this game now. I remember IDX Gundyr took me so long to kill the first time I fought him.
Yeah,
so long.
It's weird, isn't it? When you're in those boss fights and then you do them. And you're like, man, why did this take me like fucking 5-10 attempts?
I don't know. To be fair, sometimes I've had boss it. Like I can't remember what it was. I think it was in Dark Souls 3, and I think it was Aldrich. And I KO'd him as he KO'd me.
Oh no!
And I was like, did
it count?
Did it do it? And it did.
Oh man!
But I felt kind of dirty.
Yeah,
but
I bet. But yeah, no, like Rom's really interesting. But there is a hunter. There is a hunter bell right there with Rom.
I told you there was.
Yeah. Just wasn't sure where because I wasn't quite sure where you were talking about and
I couldn't remember myself in truth. Yeah. Where is it?
So you got to go into the library. I think it's a library, and you've got to kill the hunter that's in there. So it's not until you kill that hunter that obviously the boss room opens up and there is a hunter's bell there. So,
really?
Yeah.
Because I saw some people on Reddit talking about how you could get to the bell and use them to help you kill the hunter.
I'm sure you can.
I could have sworn that bell was outside, but maybe
no, it was inside. It was inside at the top. It was like literally right next to the boss room, which is up the stairs inside that building.
Yeah,
so
it's like a
little spirally staircase type.
It's like
thing.
a pensive thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you kind of like fall into it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I've not used the hunter. I'm trying to avoid using it because the last couple of times it's been an option for me in boss fights. I have used it, like no shame, and and it's still still been a challenge, but I think it might be worth giving the bell a little ring and seeing what pops up with it. But I'll see.
I think I did try taking a hunter into ROM, but I don't think they do particularly well in there.
I can imagine,
just because of the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I can imagine them not lasting very long at all. But I imagine they're mostly useful for that crowd control a little bit, that crowd control aspect of getting rid of the spiders, hopefully, or at least serving enough of a distraction that you can get in and do some damage.
Well, I remember using that big the fuck off sword that has like the stab thing on it.
Yeah.
And like I know that if you go into ROM and basically just go ham on ROM to start with, you can more or less immediately get them into the second phase.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's.
I mean, in fact, I've been using the hunter's axe. I mean, that was the first weapon I got in the game, and it still remains like my absolute favorite. I just think it's so versatile and good.
I started out with the hunter's axe, and then I've discovered the sword cleaver, and I just kind of didn't look back from there.
Yeah.
And I think also the sword cleaver is so iconic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, so that's my time with Bloodborne. Still loving it. Still carrying on with it.
Awesome.
We'll be continuing with it for the foreseeable future. But yeah, other than that, there's one thing I wanted to talk about last month, which I didn't manage to talk about, and I'm only bringing it up because it's a continuous game. We ran out. It was a long ass episode last month, so I sort of like left it to the wayside. But we have fully started up our Witcher tabletop role-playing game campaign, our TTRPG, our weekly game, our home game that I run. And yeah, just having the absolute best time with it again. And just diving back into that system and that world again.
Did Amber actually roll a halfling, by the way? Because I saw that she was. I wasn't sure if she was just teasing.
No, she absolutely rolled a halfling, but not for our home game. So we are playing we were gonna do for Amber's mum for Mother's Day. We were gonna run a tabletop game, but COVID was a thing, so we couldn't get together and have that sort of like Mother's Day game. So now we're actually in a position to actually be able to play it. We're organising it properly and sorting it out for like the next couple of weeks. So yeah, Amber's rolling a halfling for that, which is fun.
Halfling crew come through.
Absolutely, yeah. She's playing a halfling bard, which is a nonsense, absolutely insane. Her concept for this character, which is great. But yeah, so yeah, we're just back on that game. With our weekly game, having fun with it, looking forward to our little side game, and also I got my the recent release from Artel Saurian for the game is the Witcher's Journal, which is a new bestiary, along with some other bits and bobs, which I finally came through the mail to me last week, which is amazing. So just like more and more stuff for it. So
kind of similar to like core book expansions for like D&D, like a. Is it kind of in the line of like a Xanathar's Guide to Everything with like more options and like some new monsters and some DM tips and like that kind of thing?
Like I won't.
Or is it more like an adventure kind of thing?
No, I won't lie. So what we've been given is it's not perfect. I've got my complaints about it, absolutely. But it is literally just a bestiary. So it's just got more monsters in it for the game. And some lore stuff as well, and it's written out like an investigation section of like a how to run investigations in your game, which I've not had a chance to read of yet, but I imagine that's quite helpful and useful to new DMs or new GMs in the system, or new to role playing in general, which I imagine which are probably
Well, those things are generally worth reading, regardless of whether you're
absolutely.
a new or old hand there, because there's always something that you've missed.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's always something I can learn. I've just not had a chance to read it as of yet, but I will absolutely be diving into it. But yeah, I would have liked some more from it. Just maybe in terms of like equipment or other bits and bobs. I don't know. Just some more meaty chunks of stuff to really sink my teeth into, rather than just
stuff.
Yeah, more monsters, a little bit of lore, and then that investigation portion. I think they could have done a little bit more with equipment and items.
In all fairness, that
crafting stuff.
It sounds very similar to like Volo's Guide to Monsters. And in all fairness, that's actually one of my favorite like D&D supplements. I love monster lore and stuff.
Yeah.
And literally just like chunks and chunks and chunks on like the kinds of monsters and where they come from and why they're there, and I'm like, yes, give it to me. I love
which
it.
is essentially what it is. Absolutely. And there's some nice surprises in there, monster-wise. It's not all just a carbon copy of the video games. There's some stuff in there that has only been mentioned in the books, and even some stuff that's been mentioned in the books but hasn't been properly explored in the books. So that stuff's
to be fair,
really
dude,
cool.
you better be sure that the next time like I can come visit, that's literally the first thing I'm gonna just sit there on your living room floor like, yes, give me monster lore.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I love that shit, dude.
Yeah. So I really like the book. Really appreciate the book. But I feel there could have been a little bit more with it. But it is as it is. We're getting more stuff in the future. We're waiting for a compendium of adventures and modules that they're going to release at some point, either later this year, probably next year, realistically at this point, with COVID and everything having delayed a lot of things. But
Has the core book got like a bunch of adventures in already?
it's got one in there. And they did release one with the easy mode that they released last year for Free RPG Day, which was an even shorter little campaign, which makes sense because it's just like an easy how-to pickup guide, which was free. But yeah, there's only one adventure in the core rulebook, which is it's good. It's how we started off playing the game. But after that, I had ideas for days about a homebrew game anyway, and that was the direction I was going to go anyway. I just used that as like a starting off point. Because it nicely explains everything there for you to how to play the game.
Yeah, it gets you using all the skill checks.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, rolling the dice and stuff.
Yeah, but hopefully we will be getting a decent, solid chunk of adventures coming through, which I'm looking forward to seeing and seeing how I can implement those into the game in the future.
Cool.
But yeah, that's about it, really, for me. So, with that, I suppose we should move on to our news topics of the episode. So we've got a few here that we're going to talk about and discuss this month. This month's quite busy, luckily for us. But there is some stuff that we want to sort of go over again. We're just going to revisit very, very briefly, just to give you guys an update on things and how things have transitioned and moved on since last we spoke about them. So last month we spoke about the horrendous business practices over at Ubisoft with the sexual misconduct and all manner of accusations aimed at them and some of their higher-ups within the Ubisoft company that are spanning well over a decade. There's been some updates to that. Last time we spoke about it, we weren't quite sure on the status of Maxime Bellend and Tommy Francois and their status within the company. Last we heard, they were under investigation with all their accusations. It has now been confirmed that Maxime Bellend, and yes, I'm pronouncing his name wrong intentionally, who was the former Toronto office, worked at the former Toronto office as the interim director of HR, has resigned. Like I said last time, he was still under investigation. Let's remind you, he's the arsehole who was aggressive towards employees and liked to touch women inappropriately and even choked someone at a work party. So
just an all-round nice, family-friendly dude, to be honest.
Absolutely. Total bellend. And Tommy Francois, who has been fired, who was the vice president, of editorial and creative services. Let's not forget, Tommy Francois used to pressure women into having sex with him in front of other employees and kissing people on the lips and touching female colleagues inappropriately.
Was he the guy that was the green lighter? Or was that the other one?
No. Excuse me. So the Greenlighter, who was one of the is his name Serge Hasco, who was I think if I remember rightly one of the creative directors for the longest time at Ubisoft, who had so much power that he could just say yes or no to whatever the fuck he wanted, would constantly make derogatory terms about female employees, play pornography in the offices, and also hold business meetings at strip clubs. That's Serge Hasco, who, let's also remind ourselves, is very, very, very good and close friends with Yves Guillemot, who is Ubisoft's CEO. Really good friends,
But
those guys.
truly, like I scrubbed it from my brain. I truly have, like, and now you've reminded me, and it's just no better. It's just got no better.
Yeah, absolutely. Reminder, fuck Ubisoft. So there's some updates there. We also had some further updates. Seeing as we were talking about Yves Guillemot, let's remind ourselves, as time has gone on, he's still played woefully ignorant to the nonsense that's been happening within his own company, which just goes to show his absolute inadequacy and incompetence at running his own company and not seeing what's going on, or more likely that he just did not give a shit because he was very good friends with these people. So just a reminder. But one of the bigger evolutions of this story is Ashraf Ismail, who was the former creative director of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, obviously the new Assassin's Creed game that is coming out later this year, has stepped down. He stepped down in June after allegations from a number of women in the gaming community, but has now been fired due to that. But the accusations were to him trying to have relations with women in the gaming community and industry, people who are new to the industry, either streamers, content creators, journalists, anything, that, and the other, using his influence and power to basically befriend them and try and start relationships with them whilst hiding the fact that he was a married man. So real nice piece of shit he is there. So yeah, purposely hid and lied about his marital status to pursue sexual relationships with these women, and also used his sort of power and status to be like, hey, I can tell you some secrets because I work on Assassin's Creed and this, that, and the other. So really, just a breach of power and status.
Just an utter lack of morals.
Absolutely,
truly an utter lack of morals.
Absolutely fucking disgusting. And Jonathan Dumont as well has been fired as well. He was the creative director of AC Odyssey. He is sort of better known, or his accusations are known for displaying controlling and violent behaviour in the workplace. So once again, another stand-up citizen of Ubisoft.
Just so fired or resigned? Actually, how many of these have actually been fired versus like actively been able to step down hands-free, as it were?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, this is the funny thing. I'm not quite sure on Jonathan Dumont. Let me try and find out here for you. But it is worth mentioning that some people have been allowed to resign with full pay, which hasn't. How's that going to affect you? Whereas if you were actually fired, that's a black mark on your name and you'll find it very hard to work in the industry again. It's worth mentioning a lot of these men, especially those in very, very high up positions, such as Serge Hasco, have not been fired. They were given the opportunity, the privilege to resign.
To be fair, I think they'll struggle to find work in the industry again, period. But then I also think they're probably so rich that it makes no...
Yeah, Jonathan Dumont's been fired.
Makes no odds to ends to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just a reminder, just a little update on the story from last month. But Ubisoft is still a piece of shit. So I suppose not wanting to sort of stay too on that subject for too long, we can move on to a rather similar situation which is happening down in Rocksteady recently. So this is a story that kind of has come out recently through the Guardian newspaper with Rocksteady. And let's also remind ourselves that they've very, very recently announced their new game in the Arkham franchise, not long after all of this surfaced, which...
I was about to say, Rocksteady being of Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, all those kinds of... like the new wave of Batman games, basically.
Yeah, the fantastic Batman games, the Arkham series, they are behind. But they have been accused of essentially just ingrown company-wide harassment and misogyny, essentially, from their female members of staff. So let's take you back to 2018. 2018, many of the female staff, bearing in mind at the time, I don't know how many people Rocksteady employ, but at the time they only had 16 members of female staff. So not an awful lot. And the majority of those women got together to talk to the higher-ups at Rocksteady, complaining of sexual harassment and misconduct within the company towards them by other members of staff. They were hoping that Rocksteady would deal with this appropriately, properly, to protect these female members of staff, but as it transpires, in the 2 years that they've had to deal with this, they have done one 1-hour session on how not to be a misogynist and sexually harass people in the workplace. In 2 years, that's all they've done. Since then, a lot of the women have left, understandably, because they don't feel fucking safe in their workplace, which is disgusting. So just a shout out to Rocksteady for also having ingrown problems within their company, and then announcing their new game to try and brush it under the rug. But then Ubisoft did the same thing, so... But yeah, there we are.
Cool.
So, I suppose with that, we'll just move on to something maybe a little bit lighter, shall we? Should we...
I mean, it's not much lighter in truth.
No. Well, I mean, it's lighter in terms of not being about sexual misconduct and Ubisoft employees raping people and goodness knows what else. But I think we should probably go on a quick little break, just real quick, and then we'll be right back with what we'll be talking about is next-gen updates, namely Control and Halo Infinite delay. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Undead Gaming Cast. So, moving on with our news topics of the month. So, earlier this month, 505 Games issued a statement regarding Remedy Entertainment's Control, which was the 2019 hit game, which did very, 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 very well, winning numerous awards, and was certainly arguably one of the best games of last year. They made an announcement that Control will be coming to next-gen consoles in form of a what are they calling? Ultimate Edition. Control Ultimate Edition, which will be coming out in 2021, so next year. This will be, obviously, the base game, including all its DLC, releasing for next-gen and current-gen platforms for $39.99, which, in of itself, from what I've heard of Control, is like a really fucking good price and a really good deal for what it is. And it's obviously, current platform, and for next-gen, so backwards compatibility, great. However, those that were early adopters of the game, purchased the game last year, will not be getting this free upgrade, as it were. Will not be getting a free next-gen upgrade of their game, which came to a little bit of dismay, a little bit of confusion, hence why Remedy had to, or 505, had to sort of clarify this. But it's a little bit of a weird one, I suppose, and I guess brings us on to the topic of next-gen upgrades and how we're going to see them going forward as this new generation ushers itself in later this year. So, yeah, like I said, they're releasing a separate Game of the Year edition, essentially, of the game for current-gen and next-gen consoles, but not allowing early adopters of the game to really benefit much from that, other than being like, sorry, you got to buy the game again?
See, I'm not defending the position, but I think the game was probably released before a lot of this kind of like next gen upgrade shenanigan kind of came around anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I know that Microsoft kind of guaranteed that, like, basically anything that's released between now and Xbox X is basically going to receive like the upgrade alongside with it. And I suppose the other thing as well is that because it's kind of like this new version of the game, it's basically a Game of the Year edition.
Yeah.
So I suppose like to then upgrade the people who bought the base game, that mean I suppose they might view it as they're probably getting content they didn't necessarily pay for to start with. Does that make sense? Because obviously there's like paid DLCs and all those kinds of things as well. So I can I'm not saying that like I'm supporting what they're doing, but I can certainly understand the business acumen. And I think some maybe people are kind of moaning a little bit just to kick up a fuss because it's kind of on the cusp of the two gens.
Yeah. I mean, I think the initial. I don't have the initial statement, but the initial statement I think was a little bit confusing. Hence why 505 had to come out again just to clarify. I agree with you. This I think is a tough one. Honestly, there's pros and cons to both. I think it's a little bit shitty on like the original people that supported your game and made it do so well, or helped it do so well, I should say, because they bought it and supported it financially. And I kind of feel like Remedy's games, for the most part, are not hit or miss, but they aren't overly well known or well received. Alan Wake is probably one of their bigger or more well known
fucking rules,
IPs. Yeah, and they've obviously made games since then, but nothing to the popularity, I suppose, of Control. Control got a lot of attention last year. And no doubt became a bit bigger than I think they maybe were expecting it to do. I'm not sure how much in the way of DLC they had initially intended to do or had planned. So, all of this is probably a little bit of a surprise to them that maybe people want this on next-gen consoles. So, yeah, and all things considered, like I said, that sort of $40 price tag for Control and all of its DLC, from everything I've heard about Control, that's a really good fucking deal. Just a little bit shitty on those early adopters, like I said. But it's kind of understandable. It's kind of understandable why they would do this in that respect, I think.
I genuinely don't think it's unreasonable at all, actually. Like, because not saying it's right for once or for one or another or whatever, but like previously in the past, obviously you've had to buy your next gen upgrades and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was like they were never sold Control in 2019 under the onus that they would get a free upgrade coming to the next gen as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and also like, it's very possible that people have played Control and loved Control, but not necessarily bought it firsthand anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or,
yeah.
So I don't know, like I think it's a lot of clucking over nothing, to be completely honest with you. That's kind of where I generally fall like 90% of the time I'll side with the consumer, generally speaking. But I think in this instance, I think for $40, like I know that I've bought games before. I've bought like the base edition of the game and then had my time with it and then just bought the Game of the Year edition because it works out cheaper than buying all of the DLC.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
if you're getting all of the DLC that comes with it and then an upgrade to the next generation, don't really see the problem personally. And I think maybe they could include maybe as a kind of tidbit to the people who might want it on next gen and bought like the original game, maybe doing one of those like when you buy like WoW or something, can you buy like the expansion for WoW and then you can pay like an extra $10 after you've bought the expansion to upgrade to like the deluxe edition, and you get like maybe there's a tidbit that you could throw there, and if people were really like up and if you've bought all of the DLC for the base game, here's $5, here have the upgraded. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
as you know. But I think it's a lot of something about nothing. In truth, I reckon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I absolutely see your point, and do to a degree agree with you as well. But I like I said, I still think it's a little bit of a dick move. And also, like, let's not forget that the next gen consoles we know for a fact are all going to be backwards compatible as well.
Yeah.
So I think if we're looking at this coming generation compared to the last, where nothing was backwards compatible, it's a bit of a different story. You know, we had one example I can think of quite near the time, and I think also it kind of involves you as well a little bit. When Dragon Age 3 Inquisition came out, that was available on 360, PS3, and PS4 and Xbox One at the time, because it all kind of came out at the same sort of time. And you bought it on 360, I seem to remember, and I was thinking, why don't you just wait until and get it on next gen? Because it's just like, because you're gonna have to buy it again or whatever it is. It sort of didn't make sense to me. But there we didn't have any form of backwards compatibility or easy upgrades. Like I think is now the possibility.
It's also a little bit different in that for that example, especially as far as I'm concerned, because I think I bought it secondhand from CEX anyway for 360 because I wanted to play it. I'd just finished Dragon Age 2, I think, or something after another or a replay of Origins. Wanted to play Inquisition, fine, and then also I changed my
console. Course, yes, of course you did, yeah.
Because I was a 360 boy and I went over to PlayStation 4 for the next gen.
In fairness, same, yeah.
So
of course, yeah.
Kind of, yeah. But then also, like, I also bought it on the 360, knowing full well that it was on the next gens anyway. And if I liked it that much, I probably would have just ponied up and paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, like I think a poor personal example there. My apologies, but the still stands that we didn't have backwards compatibility last gen, so this gen we do. So presumably it's easier for us to be able to upgrade these, or so it seems anyway. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I as well think it's a little bit something out of nothing, but it possibly stands to see a precedent for what we could see in the next couple of years, because obviously this is going to be like a slow transition. It always is. That takes at least a couple of years before we fully move on to next gen. And we certainly know from Microsoft that they're seeing this as the Xbox Series X is an option for you to upgrade when you want. We're still going to fully support the Xbox One, but you can come to the Xbox Series X when you want. Whereas Sony are much more sort of old school and hardcore with it, of like, this is the new console, this is next gen, let's fucking go. So
yeah, I think that was one of the things that I really admired about the reveal of the the new Xbox, was they were like, basically any game that we make for the Xbox, if you buy it for your Xbox One, you'll have it for your next gen, starting from obviously within reason or whatever, but like starting from, and all of your stuff, if it doesn't come to next gen, it's all backwards compatible.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I saw that as more of a goodwill gesture to sort of maybe try and win people over, rather than maybe I'm just being cynical, but rather than, like, as you say, like Sony's kind of more hardcore, kind of like, if you buy The Last of Us 2 on PS4, you'll buy The Last of Us on PS5, like, But I kind of just saw that as more of a goodwill gesture from Microsoft than a setting the standard. And maybe they turn around and say, like, all first party studio, like all of your first party studio games are eligible for upgrades or whatever. But I don't think it'll be like for basic bitch versions of the game, and I think it'll only be stuff that you've bought digitally as well.
Yeah.
Which doesn't bother me, actually, because I buy an awful lot of games digitally. But
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, I think it's a bit of an interesting topic to see where we sort of go forward, because I can just see this as a lot of possibilities for things to go wrong here. And obviously we already know that CD Projekt Red are doing free upgrades for Cyberpunk 2077 as well. They announced last year this for the Xbox Series X and Xbox One, and then at a later date announced the same for PlayStation 4 and 5. So and they're doing that for free, like we said. So it's just gonna be
Has
interesting
CD
to see where
Projekt
we
Red
go.
partnered up with Microsoft then? Is that kind of like, like Call of Duty has like the lead on PlayStation? Is that kind of a similar thing with?
Yeah, a majority of their output has been on Microsoft stages or Microsoft press conferences or using the Xbox. So yeah, I think that the Xbox or Microsoft are kind of heralded as their
Home
advertising
platform,
console at
as
the
it
moment.
were.
Yeah, if a home platform makes sense, but yeah, that's kind of like the brand stuff that they've been doing and pushing. So yeah, it's I don't know. I think it's interesting at the moment. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of a little something out of nothing, and I think Control being what it was in 2019 is kind of its own thing. They can kind of get away with it, but it's going to be interesting to keep our eyes on how stuff like this is going forward. I think in the next couple of years, with some telltale companies, shall we say, where it probably won't surprise us that they'll probably try and get as much money from us as possible. But
I vaguely remember seeing somewhere that EA were doing it for the sports games, but I don't know if I just kind of read that in passing or
free
if it
upgrades
was,
or paid.
I think, free upgrades, or at least for some of the lines. I think for hockey maybe, and maybe for Madden.
Yeah.
If you buy 2021, like it'll give you like an upgrade. But I don't know whether that's because it was like on Microsoft and like very similar. Like I always think that like those kinds of like EA sport games are kind of very often showcased on Microsoft consoles. So maybe that's kind of tied in with all of that
Yeah.
shenanigans.
No, absolutely.
But I think it would kind of be down to the individual company. Like CD Projekt Red, like while I don't necessarily always agree with their personal politics, like for whatever reason, are always very consumer friendly. Like they, their DLCs they put out are like basically games within their own rights. Like they do put a lot of like love and care and attention into what they're doing, and so it doesn't surprise me that they're offering free upgrade. Like
and they've also announced similar to how they did with The Witcher 3 that all their DLCs will be free apart from their DLC expansions, basically.
Ones, yeah.
So yeah, like same old consumer friendly shit from them again.
Yeah,
which is no surprise.
Unsurprised by that. Like, but I generally speaking, I think that the CD Projekt Red are generally an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that like maybe Ubisoft will necessarily be giving out free upgrades.
Yeah, certainly not anytime soon, huh? So yeah, I think it's an interesting story, an interesting topic to sort of keep an eye on. But in general, hell, if you haven't got Control, next year's probably the time to get it.
30 quid, I think. Basically,
roughly,
it's like 40, like £33 or something.
Yeah, and with the prices that we're not quite sure where the prices for next gen games are going to lie as well. From what we've seen, they're looking to be more expensive than they currently are, like more than $60, which hopefully isn't going to be the case. But there we are. So
I think to be fair, they're always next gen games are always more expensive to start with, and then they kind of taper down to like the 40, 45. Because I remember seeing games coming out for like PS4 and Xbox, like whatever, and they were like £55.
Yeah.
I was like, fucking hell, I can't afford like it might be accessible to have like next gen playing on your TV, but like if I'm spending £55 every time I want to play a game, like I'm probably better off with a computer and Steam sale.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
But like obviously it did die down now, and like I mean I think I paid like 50 quid for The Last of Us digitally, but like a lot of the other games I've paid for 30 quid, 40 quid,
Yeah.
They go on sale all the time as
Absolutely.
well, and Amazon is obviously run by the most corrupt man in the universe, so everything's really cheap on there. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's I thought it was worth mentioning this month to keep an eye on just in the general sort of greater scheme of things, really. But yeah, I think we're pretty much wrapped up there. So if we move on to our final news topic, like I said, a lot of stuff to talk about this month, but not.
It's like titbitty.
Yeah, very titbitty.
Bit of a smorgasbord.
Absolutely.
Smorgasbord. It's a tapas. It's a tapas. This podcast.
So our next dish on the tapas menu is our Halo Infinite delay. Yes, folks, unfortunately, Halo Infinite has been delayed. It comes with a heavy heart, no doubt, from Microsoft and 343 Industries that they've had to delay Halo Infinite until 2021, so next year.
That's a long back.
It is, yeah, it is. But we'll obviously, by now, all of us know that Halo Infinite was initially heralded to be one of the launch titles for the Xbox Series X, which is obviously coming out this holiday season. In a matter of months, we'll be seeing that console released
November,
onto the world.
I'd have thought.
Absolutely.
Late October.
Yeah. But this time about Halo Infinite, which is sad. However, they've done it for, I think, very, very good reasons in terms of, quote from Chris Lee, the studio head of Halo Infinite, we've made the difficult decision to shift our release to 2021 to ensure the team has adequate time to deliver the Halo game experience that meets our vision. They move on to say, it is not sustainable for the well-being of our team or the overall success of the game to ship it this holiday. They also made reference to, obviously, COVID being a factor, with a lot of things shutting things down and delaying
working
things.
From home and stuff.
From home, absolutely. And basically, 343 and Microsoft don't want to put their staff through what would be a ridiculous crunch time, like an insane crunch time, to try and push it to get out for the release of the new Xbox. So fair play to them, but a little bit sad for the possible release of the Xbox, maybe.
I'm genuinely surprised Microsoft have let them push it, to be honest. I'm honestly shocked, because, in the same way that you kind of almost expect, like, a Killzone game at launch for PlayStation, like it's Halo and Forza are like the titles that are always like right out the gate for Microsoft or whatever.
I mean, you're right. Like you said, let's not beat around the bush here. Halo is Microsoft fucking flagship franchise. That is a console seller. That is a console seller. End of.
Sure.
That's one of those IPs that makes you choose between, do I do Xbox or do I do PlayStation? Personally, it was never really a competition because I never really was into Halo personally, so it doesn't matter to me. But for some of my other friends,
Die-hard Halo fans,
yeah, absolutely, sure. They're going Xbox because that's where Halo is. This isn't just a light little new IP or anything, that they're putting out for the new console. This is something that's possibly going to hurt Microsoft with its release of this console.
Like, I know that 343 can obviously deliver, but like, this is kind of in a long history of Microsoft just dropping the ball on first-party games. Like, and like, even going back to that weird Dragon game that they really hyped up and then cancelled. And do you know what I mean? It's almost like they haven't, like, obviously that you've got your game coming holiday. Like, it needs to be, it needs to be a day one release, really. And I'm glad that they've actually made the sensible choice and gone, it's not possible.
Yeah. Okay,
let's just not and delay.
Yeah.
But actually, from like a business standpoint, they should have been ahead of this, surely. Like, it's Microsoft have just got this really long history of dropping the ball on first party developments.
Well, they certainly
and
I don't understand.
I don't understand why. I don't get it. It's hurting them. Like,
it is horrendously hurting them. I think there's a few things here to unpack, right? So obviously you're absolutely right. This gen, they had a hell of a time with their first party games. Even the last Halo game didn't do particularly well, or wasn't particularly well received by fans, and they've had a string of nonsense and failures from the offset. Like you said, that weird dragon RPG that looked really exciting got cancelled. They had a Fable game that was cancelled, to the point where Lionhead got fucking closed down. Obviously now we're
shut down.
Yeah, got completely shut down. I mean, we are getting a new Fable game at some point, which is really exciting. But like, that studio completely shut down. There was also the complete and utter failure and cock-up of Crackdown 3, which came out to no fucking fanfare and was quickly brushed under the rug on release. Yeah, they've just had a string of bad IPs. There's really been nothing this gen to even warrant me thinking about getting an Xbox, apart from Gears, but I'm not going to get it.
I don't think it's a case of bad IPs. I think it's a case of bad bad scheduling and bad management, and not actually not managing their studios very well effectively.
Absolutely. I mean, and credit where credit's due. They've done really well in the last couple of years, especially with the Xbox Game Pass. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially compared to Sony and what they're doing with a similar thing, but it's not the same.
Now it's not very good.
Yeah, exactly. They're smashing out of the park with Game Pass, which is great. And obviously that's something that they're going to carry forward. So you're not going to be like you have been for most previous generations. You're not going to be stuck for things to play on the new Xbox Series X. It might not be all new, but you'll still have
whatever
reams and reams of stuff to play. Whereas, when new consoles come out, you've got here's these 4 games to choose from. Now wait till next year. So
sure.
At least there'll be options there. But I do wonder how much this will hurt them on release. But then weighing up with the Game Pass, like I said, I don't think it will be as bad as it could be if it was, say, Sony doing this, and it was.
I think Halo, ultimately, Halo will end up, like you say, or move units. It will, but I think, people are still very caught up in console wars, but and so I think they'll probably just buy the Xbox for the sake of buying the Xbox. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't really think you're going to have too many people moving over to PlayStation as a result of this.
No, not like you did last gen.
But I also don't think that it's going to perform. I think it's going to be weird. It's going to spike and dip and spike again, I think.
Yeah.
As people kind of hold off and wait for more shit to come out, and then also Halo will then come out, and then all of a sudden it's all engines on blast.
Yeah, I mean, and this is it. This was what I was going to say as well. It's going to be very interesting after next year, after Halo comes out, to look back at this time and Halo's release and look at those sales for the Xbox and see those figures and how they're going to fluctuate from release to Halo being released. I think that's going to be a really interesting spreadsheet to look at.
You get you get one Halo, maybe 2 a generation. So
if you're lucky, yeah.
The 360 was kind of very much noteworthy in the fact that it got 3 ODST and Reach.
Yeah. And Wars. Didn't it get Wars as well?
It got Wars, but I mean, it's whether you're counting Wars as a... Because Wars is Age of Empires, but Halo.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's not I suppose if you're a diehard Halo fan, you probably got it. And I played Wars. I really liked it. I think it was a great game, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not it's not what I think of when I think of Halo.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, it's sad to see, but I genuinely think, all things considered, they've done the right thing here.
Yeah,
they've done absolutely the right thing here, because they're taking consideration of their staff over profit, which is a nice change in the gaming sphere. But also,
and I think they are to be applauded. Sorry, just to say, I think they are to be applauded for that as well, because obviously, I think they know what we've just said, which is obviously it's going to hurt their bottom line. So, fair play for them to actually acknowledge, credit.
Yeah.
I know I've just had a bit of a moan and said you're doing a terrible job at managing your studios effectively, but
this is the turning point.
But that is good. It's good. It's good foresight to realise that it's not going to happen, and you don't want to burn yourself out. So good on you. Well done.
Absolutely, and for the product that you're pushing, like we said, Halo, flagship franchise. This Halo game, I think for the most part, is going to be looked upon as this is the standard for Xbox going forward, and I don't expect anything less from its flagship franchise. So for them to be it's not going to be ready, it's not going to be up to the standard and polish that we need it to be. so we're not going to release it as well. So like, yeah, fair play. And it's interesting to also mention it because we vaguely stumbled upon this earlier this year, March, sort of April time, when we were sort of discussing COVID in the gaming sphere, namely around E3 and its delay and it's not happening this year. And I think we were on with Naz at the time, and we said that it's going to be interesting to see how this affects game releases and even the next gen consoles going forward. And obviously now we're seeing a little bit of that, but we've not heard much from the Sony camp. Really, they've hinted at there could be possible delays, but nothing as substantial as what we're having from Microsoft. And I particularly brought up the fact that I think we're more likely to see delays from Japan than we are from Western developers, just due to the fact of our cultures of working from home. There's much more of a culture of working from home in the West compared to Japan, where it doesn't happen, basically. So...
Have we actually even had any sort of like flagship, like, have we actually had any much in the way of flagship, like Sony, like release titles? Like, we know we're getting a Halo and a Fable, and I think I saw somewhere we're getting a Forza as well, like, which is to be expected, like from the Microsoft stuff. But like, have we actually had like, you're getting a Killzone and Horizon Zero Dawn 2 is coming out, and do you know what I mean? Like
not necessarily for release. I'm not entirely sure of the releases of some of these, but we are getting a Gran Turismo. Which is obviously a huge flagship franchise for them for years. I don't think you can really have a new PlayStation release without Gran Turismo. Obviously, we're getting Horizon. Spider-Man Miles Morales is coming out on launch, which I'm so hyped for. But yeah, nothing as big as I suppose like classic IPs, because Halo's a very classic Microsoft IP.
Yeah,
as is Forza, as is Fable. But I don't know. Sony haven't really had those for a while, apart from Gran Turismo, and even Horizon. We know we're getting Horizon Zero Dawn 2, but that was a last gen or current gen IP, which is new.
that's like a favorite that will become a classic going forward. It's not quite in that like bridge that like Gran Turismo is, or whatever that we've had since PS1.
Absolutely. So I don't know, but we're getting a few interesting things from the Sony camp, but nothing I think, to my mind anyway, that stands out as much as Halo for Microsoft.
What to say, but that I think that kind of is back to your testament of like, it's a little bit quiet on that front. Do you know what I mean? It's almost like
suspicious.
Quiet now. It's like we know that like Fable and Forza and like Halo are coming, and it's like, and like Microsoft have even gone so far as to say we're delaying Halo, and like Sony, it's like I think we're getting like, I'm pretty sure we're getting Horizon, and Gran Turismo is going to be there, and like Spider-Man's coming out, but it's kind of like that's kind of it. Do you know what I mean? It's suspiciously quiet.
I think it's very weird for Sony, and has been for a very long time, because for the most part they've lost a lot of what belonged to them, their IPs. Not necessarily first party games, but they had Tomb Raider, they had Final Fantasy, they had Crash Bandicoot and Spyro, but now you can get all of those on Xbox and Microsoft, so they sort of don't exclusively belong to Sony anymore. We've not heard anything, and probably not due to hear anything from the Naughty Dog camp for a while, because they've just released The Last of Us 2. I imagine we'll get that on next gen as well, but we'll see. I'd
be surprised if we didn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I saw that Ghost of Tsushima was getting a PS5 as well. That was going forwards.
Awesome. I mean, that game's done really fucking well, and I really want to get it and play it. So yeah, but yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see going forward. I hope this doesn't affect Microsoft's release too much with the Xbox, but time will tell. But I think, like we said, I think they're doing it for the right reasons, and all the power to them, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
So with that, we are basically done with today's episode. So let's go on to shamelessly self-promote ourselves. SingularityJosh, what do you do, and where can we find you on the internet, my guy?
I'm mostly an online Dungeons and Dragons DM nowadays, more or less. You don't find me too often on the interwebs, but I do DM a show called Roll 4, which is on the first and third Tuesday of the month. We're currently kind of in a weird little kind of hiatus from the main campaign. We have a conclusion of the Numenera one shot run by the very lovely Catherine. Hopefully coming next Tuesday. You can find that at 7 p.m. BST over at twitch.tv/SingularityJosh. If you want to keep up with my more day-to-day mundane musings, there is Twitter, which is at SingularityJosh, and Instagram, which is at SingularityJosh. That's me.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Josh. So yes, I'm the Undead Gamer. You can obviously find me on all the socials at the Undead Gamer, gamer without the E, where I talk about video games, life, and get really angry about political stuff to do with video games, like Ubisoft and stuff. So yeah, if you want to hear more of that, go there. Twitter is your friend. You can also find me most days streaming right here, twitch.tv/theundeadgamer. We are still playing Bloodborne. We are still playing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which we will finish. God damn it, we will finish it very, very soon. And then move on to something else. I'm not sure what yet, but I've been feeling for a while maybe Deus Ex. Mankind Divided, I think was the third game.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's the sequel to the modern reboot.
Human Revolution.
Human Revolution was the first one.
Yeah, so that's what I think. That's what I think we're gonna do. We'll see though. So stay tuned for that. You can also find me on, of course, Roll 4, playing the awesome Tabaxi fighter Vincent de Paul, gunslinger, and Sky Pirate extraordinaire. Exactly where Josh said you can find it. And also, let's not forget, Josh, you can find me and SingularityJosh. Here we go. You can find us both this Saturday, the 5th of August, 3 p.m. BST, over on Capri the Gamers channel, as we play a D&D 5th ed campaign, Down and Disserum.
It's a rework of Princess of the Apocalypse.
Absolutely. Do you want to tell the lovely listeners what we are playing, Josh?
We are playing Russian Catboy Tabaxi. I'm playing Artem, will be a Way of Shadows monk, and I'm playing with Rob, who is playing as a barbarian.
Yep.
And we're both brothers, and we have horrendous Russian accents, and we kick ass. It's fun.
It's a good time, so you should come along and check us out there. But as for watching, listening, however you're consuming this podcast, thank you so much. And just as a reminder, the VOD, if you missed the live show, will be going out this Friday on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/user/theundeadgamer. And if you're listening, or you would like to listen to the podcast, then hell, you can find the Undead Gaming Cast anywhere you want nowadays. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can even find us on Google Podcast. And hopefully in the near future, Amazon Music as well. So there are lots of options for your listening and delectable delights for you to hear the Undead Gaming Cast on the go, or wherever you choose. And also, please, please, please don't forget to rate us, give us a little review. It really helps us out and get us out there to more people. So we'd really appreciate it. So thank you very much. However you're watching, listening, consuming this podcast, we really appreciate you guys. And we will catch you in the next one, which is, when is that? My word.
It's the fourth Tuesday of September, which is the 22nd.
Absolutely. So the 22nd of September, you can find us there. Here. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.